Rayid, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Whenever we hear your name and when we see you, there's always one big question. I'm sure it's been asked 1,000 times to you. How did you get the strategy together and the minds together to understand the confluence of technology, leverage it to reach out to the massive young voters that voted for President Obama?
Yeah, I mean, the young voters were a challenge for the campaign because traditionally political campaigns have really relied on making phone calls, going door to door, doing lots of TV ads, and sending physical direct mail, and all those are things that younger voters don't care about, don't listen to, don't pay attention to, don't pick up the phone. So we actually struggled quite a bit with trying to figure out how do we get younger voters engaged. In 2008, that engagement was very organic. They had it, we didn't have to do much just to foster it. This time around, we had to create it. So we did a lot of work around. One of the big tools we used towards the last 3-4 months of the campaign to really get this done is a tool we built on top of Facebook. And the idea there was to really get these people to get their friends, and we would ask for people to look at their friend list and social graph and take a lot of analytics from that and figure out who are the right people to target and get them to share those things with Facebook on those people. So that was a big part of our strategy in terms of technology, analytics, and mobilizing younger voters and getting them to go out and actually advocate on our behalf.
So in your big group, you are targeting the young audience with the new technology, but there is a whole set of voters who are still traditional methodology they're using. Was there how did you assimilate the two approaches?
Right. I mean, the way we thought about this problem was that we have a large number of voters, and we have to figure out what we target each voter for. Whether they're younger or old doesn't really matter. Everything was individual level. So we knew these are the voters we need to target to persuade them to vote for us, and then we had to get these people to vote. Period. Just go and vote. We had to convince them to vote for us because they're already going to. So by doing those predictions at an individual level, what we were able to do is then operationalize them using different channels. So some people, most people, said the older people who rely on traditional channels, were contacted through phones, and we send volunteers door to door. We did TV ads. We sent them actual mail. But if you were one of those which we couldn't reach through that, we bias other channels towards you, so Facebook and other social media and more email. So by having everything, all our strategy rely on individual predictions about voters, we could then pick and choose how we target each person after that.
President Obama is the first president standing at the cusp of this huge technology evolution. And obviously you're going to leverage this to the maximum. When you sit with the advisory team, one of the things that the administration tries to focus is how can we leverage this technology again to empower more younger people towards entrepreneurship.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you if you can share some thoughts on that particular strategy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big efforts, again, and I don't speak for the administration because I don't work for the administration, but one of the things I've seen that's really encouraging and exciting, even in the past few weeks, some of the announcements from the government have been around making data available for people. And I think most of the social entrepreneurs out there, they might have a lot of ideas, but it's very hard to execute on those ideas if you don't have evidence and data to back that up. And a lot of the work that the government is doing is how to make that accessible to people. Doing open data, a lot of both federal, state, and city governments, New York, Chicago, have been putting data out for people to use so they can build things on top of it. And I think that's sort of the gap where a lot of these entrepreneurs are filling is they're seeing all this data being made available by governments, and they're seeing needs of consumers and filling this gap in the middle by connecting the two together. So I think that's something that hasn't happened a lot, and now we're at the point where it's happening. It's still not completely there, but it's happening at a much faster rate, and people are seeing applications built on top of that to make things useful.
You're a better person to ask this because you've been in the campaign, in the administration, now you're out of it. Biggest challenge for young entrepreneurs or seasoned entrepreneurs when it comes to technology portion of it is that they feel a frustration and challenge to relate to the bureaucracy of the government. Okay, we are moving at a very fast pace, and they want to move with us, but they can't move along much faster. So what are the challenges that you have seen trying to bridge this gap, and what are your recommendations for any government for that matter?
Yeah, no, I think it's a huge challenge, and it's a challenge that I still face every day. I'm not working in the government, but but some of the work I'm doing is projects that we're working with different federal agencies, and we struggle with, they're too slow, they don't want to move too fast, they're too conservative, and I think that's going to hurt them because we're going to move on and start doing other things. I think one of the challenges, a lot of people are excited about doing things for public good right now, but if the government doesn't support that, if they don't start changing their behavior, these excited, young, passionate people will move on to their next passion. They're not going to stick around and wait 2 years until this works out. And I think that's a big challenge that the governments have to figure out a way of solving, whether that's a technology solution where they make some things available and let the people figure out, or they make that an entrepreneurship problem. You guys figure out how we provide a platform for you to do this, as opposed to trying to keep everything close to them and slow everybody down.
The last question for you is, in an open world with instantaneous connections, when everybody else is competing for the pie, where do you think US's edge still lies, where we are really good at for the coming decades?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to predict anything about the coming decades, right? With especially with, I think U.S. as a country. Well, one, I'm not a very sort of country-specific person, so I'd rather have where the world's edge lies as opposed to country's edge, because countries are fluid and they'll go up and down. But I think where there is what I see as a challenge is really, I think, which is the obvious challenge everybody cares about, is not having enough people thinking about the STEM part of things, right? So science, technology, engineering, and I think without focus on that, without focus on sort of math skills and education, you're going to struggle with people who might have great ideas but don't know how to execute them. Because you can only do so much with great ideas if you don't have the skills and background to really figure out what's feasible, what's not feasible. So I think that the edge needs to be in not just in ideas, but also in making them very concrete and making them, and that means at a very grassroots level, making things. Math education in the U.S. is pretty bad. Most kids are, and I think that's where it needs to be, is encouraging them, giving them role models, and making them really a lot more excited about doing the kind of stuff we all do here.
Rayid, thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate that much.
Thanks.
Take care.